Okay, so what actually comes after ChatGPT? I mean, we've all gotten pretty used to chatbots that can, write an email, summarize a long document, or help us brainstorm ideas. But what is the next massive leap in artificial intelligence? What happens when AI goes from just answering your questions to literally doing your job for you? Well, that is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the fascinating shift from what we call generic AI to agentic AI. We're moving away from these reactive tools that just sit there waiting for a command toward proactive, autonomous digital coworkers, things that can actually take a really complex project from start to finish. It's a huge evolution, and understanding it is absolutely crucial for anyone looking to stay ahead of the curve right now. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the limits of generic AI, introduce agentic AI, peek under the hood to see how it works, explore some real-world applications, and finally, map out the agentic tool landscape.
All right, Section 1, the limits of generic AI, the reactive problem. Let's get right into it and establish a baseline with what we use every single day and where the bottlenecks are. So generic AI essentially refers to systems that primarily respond to user prompts. Think of your everyday tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Google Gemini. They are strictly reactive. Now, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely amazing at generating content or explaining really tough concepts, but they completely lack the ability to pursue goals independently beyond just giving you that immediate answer. Picture a basic workflow with these generic tools. Step 1, you ask a question. Step 2, the AI generates a response. And Step 3, the conversation just ends. It's a total dead end. This creates a massive bottleneck because it relies entirely on you, the human, to initiate every single action. If you want a blog post, you have to prompt it. If you then want a social media post to promote that blog, well, you've got to prompt it again. You end up with what we call prompt fatigue because the AI won't lift a finger unless you specifically ask it to.
Which brings us to Section 2 and the massive paradigm shift we're living through right now. Enter Agentic AI, proactive AI systems. This is where AI moves from being a passive tool to an active participant.
The definition of agent AI fundamentally changes the game. Instead of just waiting for your prompts, these are systems that understand larger objectives. They create plans, they use external software tools, and they execute entire workflows autonomously. They basically take big, hairy goals, break them down into manageable tasks, and actively work toward the finish line, without needing you to constantly hold their hand or issue new instructions.
Let's say you want to build a website. With generic AI, it's like a giant puzzle. You have to ask it to write the homepage copy, then design the logo, then write the CSS, create the database schema. You are manually managing every single microtask. But with Agentic AI, you give it one goal: build me a website for an accounting firm. Boom, the AI agent goes off, gathers the requirements, designs the UI, builds the front end and the back end, tests it all, and deploys the application. Your role shifts entirely from micromanaging tasks to simply supervising the final result.
So, how on earth is this actually possible? Let's move to Section 3, Under the Hood, how agentic AI works. Let's look at the actual mechanics of how an AI pulls off these complex, multi-step goals. An agentic AI system follows a continuous cycle. First, it receives the objective from you. Second, it automatically creates a roadmap. Third, it executes those tasks by actively using tools. But here is the absolute kicker. Step 4, evaluate and repeat. It actually verifies its own success. If a deployment fails, it spots the error, finds a new solution, and tries again, completely on its own. It just keeps working until the job is done. To pull this off, it relies on a few interconnected building blocks. You've got the large language model acting as the brain or the reasoning engine, but it's paired with persistent memory, so the agent actually remembers what it's already done. It uses a planning engine to break down the big stuff, and tool calling, which allows it to step completely outside the chat box and interact with external software, like GitHub, Slack, or a web browser. And finally, it has a feedback system to check if its output actually hit the mark. At the heart of all this is the reasoning loop. Think, plan, act, observe, reflect, improve, and repeat. This continuous loop is the secret sauce for sure. It's what allows an AI agent to dynamically adapt to changing circumstances, just like you or I would if we ran into a roadblock at work. Now that we know how it works mechanically, let's look at Section 4, Real-World Applications, Putting Agents to Work. Let's take this from theory to practice and see how it's fundamentally changing actual jobs.
Let's do some rapid-fire comparisons to really highlight the leap here. Take software development. A generic AI might write a single Python function for you. Nice, but basic. An agentic AI, though, it builds an entire software application from scratch. It handles the architecture, the code, the debugging, the deployment, the whole shebang.
How about marketing? With generic AI, you prompt it to write one single LinkedIn post. With Agentic AI, it takes over the entire campaign. It's researching your competitors, writing the blog posts, designing the graphics, scheduling everything out, and then tracking the analytics to recommend improvements. It is literally the difference between having a freelance copywriter and a full-time campaign manager.
And look at the impact on accounting. A generic tool can explain complex rules like IFRS 16 to you, but an agentic AI actually logs in, reads your accounting data, calculates the lease liabilities, generates the journal entries, and produces the final financial statements. It only flags the really weird, complex exceptions for a human to review.
So where can you actually find these tools today? Let's check out Section 5, the Agentic Tool Landscape. What to use today. Let's ground this in some actionable software you can try right now.
Looking at the current landscape, there are a few key highlights to help guide you. If you're doing basic writing or brainstorming, generic tools like ChatGPT or Claude are still your best bet. But if you want to build software, look at semi-agentic tools like Cursor. It's an AI-powered code editor that plans and debugs across your entire project. If your goal is to automate business processes without heavy coding, check out a workflow automation tool like N8N. And for heavy enterprise AI orchestration, frameworks like LangGraph are what developers are using to build custom, highly autonomous agents right now.
Now, under the surface, to make these tools work for your specific business, they rely on some essential tech. Things like RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which allows these agents to fetch highly accurate data directly from your internal company documents. They also rely on external APIs, so they can actually pull levers in the real world, like processing a payment on Stripe or updating a ticket in GitHub. And they use vector databases like Pinecone or Chroma, which act as a long-term memory so the agent doesn't forget context from day to day.
So the crucial takeaway from this entire explainer is actually really simple. Generic AI answers questions. Agentic AI achieves objectives. These are not competing technologies, they're entirely complementary. Generic AI is your incredibly knowledgeable daily assistant. Agentic AI is your autonomous digital coworker that orchestrates workflows and tackles end-to-end automation.
Which brings us to a final thought from our source material, and it puts it perfectly. The future of artificial intelligence is moving beyond simple chatbots toward intelligent digital coworkers. The era of just chatting with AI is rapidly evolving into an era of delegating to AI. So the question I'll leave you with today is this. Looking at your own daily grind, which bottlenecks are you ready to hand over to an AI agent right now? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps structure your understanding of exactly where AI is heading next.